Good morning. So I wanted to get on and talk about how I started direct channeling my primary guides, Ozenan. They are a collective of Pleiadian beings, 44 Pleiadian beings, they recently told me, because it's kind of an interesting story. And so, it starts back at the beginning of my spiritual awakening. Very early on, when my spiritual awakening really started to take off, I began to sort of have like breadcrumbs drop in about Pleiadians. Now, this is a word I had never heard. I had no familiarity with the idea of like star family, extra dimensionals, any of that stuff. But yeah, I was kind of just exploring lots of different spiritual genres, I suppose. And the word Pleiadian kept dropping in. And so finally I looked it up and I was like, this is a little too weird for me. And I just like put it aside. And then pretty early on, I heard an interview on Oprah's podcast where she interviewed Esther Hicks and then Abraham. Esther brought in Abraham. Esther Hicks is probably the most famous direct channel out there. And I remember having this moment as soon as Esther was talking about what she was going to do. I was like, yeah, right. That sounds like BS. And then Esther brought Abraham through. And I immediately burst into tears and started sobbing. And I was like, what the F? So that caught my attention in a big way. And as the years have gone on, I've realized that one of my truth markers for when something is true for me, in the spiritual realm especially, one of my truth markers is tears. Overwhelming emotion. And it's not sadness. It's like just pure emotion. It's almost like overwhelming joy. So I started listening to channelers, direct channelers, trans channelers way back, many years ago at the beginning of my spiritual awakening. And then I just kind of let that go. And one day I was sitting, I had a UFO encounter. And I've talked about this on my Instagram before, and you can scroll way back if you want to watch the whole story. But essentially, I was sitting in my room in a townhouse in the middle of a city, and I heard tones in my ear. And I thought, what is that? That's weird. And I thought it was actually my fan. I had a fan running, and I was like, my fan must be making a weird noise. Maybe something's caught in it. Went and looked at my fan. Nothing was caught in it. And then I heard the tones again, louder. And I heard a voice in my head that basically said, walk outside. And my bedroom at that time had a balcony off of it, like a big deck. And so I walked out onto the deck. This was probably like 10, 11 at night. And I looked up and there was 3 lights flying in unison, and they began making these really unusual flying motions. And then they all came together into a triangle, and again, like flying in these really unusual formations. And then they split apart, and then they shot off at like high speed. And the feeling of this encounter was almost like reality became liquid. It was pretty wild. It was like reality slowed down. It was kind of liquidy. Like there was a very distinct feeling as I saw this UFO, although UAP is the new thing that they call UFOs. But anyway, and then the interesting thing was I went back into my bedroom after seeing this encounter, and I was playing with a new deck of cards that I had, because back then I was a card reader, if some of you might remember. I pulled a card, and the card that I pulled was Pleiadian's open contact. There was a card in the deck about Pleiadians, and it said open contact. It was such a wild experience. And after that, things started to accelerate a little bit. I had some dreams where my guides were dropping in. I didn't have a name yet, but they were dropping in and like visiting me. I started doing some automatic writing somewhere in there, and that's when the name Ozenan came through. And I just went with it. I was like, okay, all right, I don't know what's going on. And then I had an experience of spontaneous direct channeling. I was home alone. And again, this was years ago. I was home alone and I was doing some ecstatic dance, which I like to do to move energy through me. So I had some music on. I was dancing in my living room by myself. And suddenly I felt this like overwhelming energy come through me. And I sat down on the ground, cross-legged, and I opened my mouth and a voice started to come through that wasn't mine. And it felt amazing. It felt good. So I didn't resist it. I went with it. And because when I do this type of channeling, I don't retain all of it like consciously. I don't know the entire message that came through that day, but I know that it was an introduction. It was Ozenan, and it was a calling to do this type of channeling. Now, again, this was years ago. At the time, I started to do a little bit of this privately with voice notes, just on my own. I would ask my own questions, and then I would bring them through and record what was said. So I've done that for years. I also automatically write and allow them through in that way. But this is something that I've always known I was going to do eventually. I knew that this was part of my gift. It was part of my purpose, is to bring through beings in this way, verbally channeling. But I have not felt ready to dive into this until just at the beginning, literally New Year's Day, 2024 was the first time I did it. First time I truly did it publicly. They have come through in some of my channeled readings over the years, a couple times. But basically the reason that I didn't feel ready was because it is so essential doing this type of channeling to be able to you need to have like full control of your ego. So you need to be very deeply in touch with your ego, and you also need to know how to work with it so that you can put your ego fully in the back seat. I think that something that happens with a lot of direct channels, not all, there's lots of very pure, beautiful direct channelers out there. And there are some people in that space who you can kind of tell their ego is not fully in the back seat, even if maybe they think it is, because they bring through messages of like fear or danger, or messages that are not rooted in power, in personal power. And you can feel that when you watch some channelers. And it's always been very, very, very important to me that I do not begin direct channeling Ozenan until I was 100% sure that I could put my ego in the back seat and allow the message to come through in its purest form. So that's finally, I after 2023, it was a big year, I know for many of us. I did a lot more shadow work. I did a lot more deep self-acceptance work, self-love work. And by the end of 2023, I found myself, my inner self, my inner world, in a completely new, beautiful, beautiful place where I am really in my power and able to say to my ego, okay, we're taking the back seat now. And so that's why I've started doing this channeling now. And that's sort of the background of how it came to be. And when I'm actually channeling, because I've had a couple of people ask me about this. So if you want to watch full videos of this, you can go to the link in my bio and go to my YouTube. I'm posting all of the full videos there. When I'm channeling, I am conscious. I'm not in a full trance. So I wouldn't call myself a trance channeler. I am conscious of what is being said, but it's almost like I'm at the very back of my consciousness and like observing what's coming through. And when I finish channeling, I forget very quickly what's been said. So I have to go back and watch my own videos after I channel. And then it is very energizing. It feels uplifting. It feels really beautiful. It's like this beautiful high frequency energy moving through me. And at this time, I only had the capacity to channel for so long. So direct channel like this. Now this is different than like my channeled readings where I'm seeing images and sort of relaying them. This direct verbal channeling, I have the capacity, right now I have the capacity to do it for like 20 minutes-ish. And they've let me know that we're slowly upgrading that capacity so that eventually I will be able to channel, for like a straight hour, bring through a channeled message, which is my goal because I know, there's just so much information and communication that Ozenan wants to bring through for the collective. And also for individuals, which that's going to be coming as well, individual sessions with Ozenan. But since this is all just started and all very new to me, I'm slowly increasing my capacity. So I just wanted to share the background on that, how it came to be, why now this is becoming a big part of my work. So thank you for listening. If anyone does have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. There's a few people here. I can give it a second and just see if anyone has any questions about direct channeling, verbal channeling, Ozenan, my own experience with this, how it came to be, anything at all. Yeah, and if you have any questions, just go ahead and stick a comment in the comment box there, and I'd be happy to answer. Hi, thank you for joining, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. Oh, actually, there is one question. Oh, hey, Leah. Oh, that's so interesting. So Leah says, did you change your voice on purpose? It changed when you talk about channeling. That is really interesting. No, I didn't. But it makes sense that even in this conversation, like when I'm talking about channeling, I'm also kind of channeling. I'm really kind of allowing it through. So that is so interesting. Thank you for that observation. I don't necessarily see that in myself. Yeah, that's really interesting. No, my voice probably changed a bit. I find that when I'm even talking about Ozenan and talking about this channeling, I can feel my frequency like a little bit. And so I bet that affects my voice. That's really interesting. Yeah, thanks for that observation. Okay, so I think that's probably it for now. I'm going to go ahead and post this video for those who couldn't make it live. And oh, Leah, interesting. It was in slow motion, but not that extreme. Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you for that observation, Leah. That's cool. I'm going to go back and watch the video. So I'm going to go ahead and post this for everyone who couldn't make it live. For those of you who were here live, thank you for watching and have a beautiful day. Mwah.